I will be retiring from the Portugal national team.
We're also saying our goodbyes to Cristiano Ronaldo.
He walked off that pitch in tears. And what he said in the mixed zone afterward wasn't really about the loss. It was a sentence that, once you actually sit with it, explains everything about why Portugal was never going to win this World Cup in the first place. Portugal and Ronaldo were never meant to win this World Cup.
Bueno, normal, triste por salir así del Mundial, pero como ha dicho ayer en la conferencia de prensa, ha dado todo, pues ha dado mi mejor.
That trophy was never destined to be theirs. And before I tell you why I believe that, let me walk you through the reasoning. After his 6th World Cup, a record no one else holds, Cristiano Ronaldo once again left the tournament without the trophy. And this wasn't some weak Portugal side. This was supposed to be their strongest squad in 20 years. World-class talent in almost every position.
5 in red in the middle, Ronaldo!
Midfield, fullbacks, goalkeeper, attack. On paper, one of the best teams in the competition. But this team never played like a team built to win a World Cup. A shaky group stage, a draw they shouldn't have needed, a knockout stage they barely survived. And then, the round of 16. Spain, 1-0, a stoppage time winner.
And they're out.
With a 1-0 win over Portugal, Cristiano Ronaldo.
For long stretches, that match had almost nothing to offer. Two teams full of individual quality, playing like they were terrified of losing rather than trying to win. Think about that for a second. This was a round of 16 match at a World Cup, featuring two nations packed with Champions League winners, Ballon d'Or contenders, some of the best individual talent on the planet.
In the round of 16, and this was a tight game, arguably Spain with a better side.
And what we got was 90-plus minutes of caution. Nobody wanted to be the team that made the mistake. Nobody wanted to be the name attached to the failure. That kind of football doesn't happen by accident. It happens when players are protecting themselves more than they're chasing something together. But that's not really the point. The point is Ronaldo is gone. This was his last World Cup. I wanted this video to be a tribute.
Y disfrutar día a día. Ojalá, que no sea mañana mi último partido. Ojalá. Eu não vou ser mais cristiano por ganhar o Mundial, ou vou ser menos cristiano se não ganhar o Mundial.
Because whatever you think of the man, Cristiano Ronaldo is factually one of the greatest footballers this sport has ever produced.
1-1!
The records speak for themselves. The trophies speak for themselves. Nobody can take that away from him. But I kept asking one question. Why did it happen again? Why did Ronaldo fail again? Why did Portugal fail again? This isn't new territory for him either, and that's what makes it sting more. South Africa 2010, eliminated without truly imposing himself. Brazil 2014, carrying an injured squad through the group stage and still going home early. Russia 2018, brilliant in patches, isolated in the moments that mattered.
It's Ronaldo, it's 1-0 Portugal!
Watching a teenage Mbappe take over the tournament instead.
One of the defining images of the tournament.
Qatar 2022, benched, humiliated in some circles, dropped for the biggest knockout matches of his own generation's last real shot. And now this. 6 attempts, 6 different ways of falling short. At some point, the pattern itself becomes the story, and I think the answer became clear the moment I heard his interview after the elimination. He said, in essence, I've already won 3 titles with Portugal. Before me, Portugal had won nothing. The biggest trophy I've won with this national team was Euro 2016. And for me, that carries the same value as a World Cup.
Ha ganado 3 títulos por Portugal. Antes de Cristiano, Portugal no tenía ganado ningún título. Pues contento. La verdad que el mayor título que gané en la selección fue 2016.
That one statement changed everything about this video. Here's my theory. Portugal and Ronaldo were never going to win this World Cup because they never had one shared reason to win it. The coach had his motivation. The players had theirs. Ronaldo had his own. Everyone chasing something different. Go back and look at any past World Cup winner. You'll find a team united behind one purpose. The group wants it for each other. The star wants it for the country. Everybody rowing in the same direction. That's what tends to produce champions. Portugal never had that. Not this time. I know how it sounds to say some players on that squad may not have personally needed this trophy the way Ronaldo did. Every footballer wants to be a world champion, right? But something stood out to me on the night Portugal went out. Most of the squad didn't rush over to console him. Compare that to Neymar in tears, surrounded instantly by his Brazil teammates. We've seen that before. We've seen it around Ronaldo himself in past tournaments. This time it looked different. It's a small moment, maybe 30 seconds of footage that most people scrolled straight past. But small moments like that tend to say more than any post-match interview ever could. Nobody organizes a show of support in real time. Either it happens instinctively, because that's genuinely how a group feels about each other, or it doesn't happen at all, because that instinct was never really there to begin with. The media has spent years claiming some players in that dressing room don't warm to Ronaldo. But watching that long, lonely walk to the tunnel, I don't think it was about liking him or not. I think it was about purpose. They simply didn't share his reason for wanting it. Whether Ronaldo wanted this for himself, for the team, for his country, or for his legacy, that's a separate conversation. What seemed obvious was that the rest of the squad wasn't carrying the same fire. Now, I know how this gets misread. Like I'm putting the blame entirely on him. I'm not. I think everyone in that camp shares responsibility. The coach, the players, the captain, all of it. Because nobody was pulling in the same direction. Look at how different players like Bruno Fernandes or Vitinha look for their clubs compared to how they look for Portugal. At club level, everyone shares one identity, one goal. With the national team, that unity just wasn't there. No amount of media narrative manufactures real motivation. You see this pattern across football all the time, actually, and it rarely gets talked about honestly. A player can be the heartbeat of his club side and a passenger for his country, not because his ability changes overnight, but because the collective purpose around him changes. Systems built around one unifying idea produce a version of a player that a looser, more individually motivated setup simply can't. It's well known Ronaldo has always wanted this trophy badly, for himself. But he's also said things suggesting Portugal achieved nothing before he arrived. Whether people want to argue about that or not, it's a genuinely controversial thing to say. Now, Portugal had Ballon d'Or winners before him, Golden Boot winners before him, clubs like Benfica competing among Europe's elite before him. Their best ever World Cup finish came before him. Nobody's denying what he built afterward. He transformed this national team. He delivered trophies Portugal had never won. That part isn't in question, but somewhere along the way, the entire story became about winning it for him. The media repeated it. The fans repeated it. Portugal has to win the World Cup for Ronaldo became the whole narrative. Did every player in that dressing room actually believe that? I don't think they did. And I think that's part of why this team never played with total conviction. Everyone outside the camp wanted them to win it for him. Inside the camp, that belief never really seemed to exist. I'll say this too, and I know it won't be popular. I think Ronaldo played a part in creating that gap himself. Not as a footballer, but through what he said. Believing privately that the Euros hold equal value to the World Cup is one thing. Saying it out loud right after being eliminated from the one trophy that's eluded him his entire career sends a message to every teammate listening. Would a player fight to the very last minute for a captain who's just told the world he's already achieved enough? It puts every young player in that squad in an impossible position too. Imagine being 22 years old, playing your first real World Cup knockout match, and hearing your captain, the most decorated player of his generation, essentially say the trophy you're all chasing isn't even his biggest priority. What does that do to a locker room in the hours before a match that could define careers? And the wider squad deserves scrutiny too. Portugal played at a fraction of what they were capable of across this entire tournament. Against Spain, once it was clear Ronaldo could no longer influence the game the way he once did, there were real questions nobody answered. Why wasn't the bench used? Why wasn't a tired, uncreative midfield refreshed? The bold decisions this team needed simply never came. At this point, a huge share of the interest around this Portugal team existed because of one man. He was the reason millions tuned in, and now he's gone. The next time Portugal fails at a major tournament, there's no Ronaldo left to absorb it. Whatever shield his presence gave this squad disappears with him. The blame lands somewhere else next time. It has to. That, to me, is the real story of Ronaldo, Portugal, and this World Cup. A sad ending for one of the greatest footballers this sport has ever produced, and closing his World Cup chapter without the one trophy that meant the most. And in the end, I don't think anyone in that camp ever really stood together. That's why this story ends the way it does. If you want breakdowns like this on every World Cup story that matters, make sure you're subscribed with the bell on.